We often think of our habits as mere routines or small choices, but in reality they define the very essence of who we are. Our habits, whether we realize it or not, mold our character, guide our actions, and influence the relationships we build. But here's the truth. Some of the habits we cling to are quietly sabotaging our personal growth, preventing us from living with integrity and holding us back from becoming the best version of ourselves. The truth is, there are habits we nurture that, if left unchecked, slowly erode our ability to thrive spiritually, emotionally, and socially. We might be blind to their impact, or perhaps we justify them because they've become part of our daily lives. Today, I want to challenge you to examine some of these habits that might have crept into your life and taken root without you even noticing. These habits, though seemingly insignificant, can rob you of the peace, purpose, and progress you deserve. What are these habits? What are the behaviors we need to shed in order to live more freely, authentically, and fully aligned with the values we hold dear? In the next few minutes, we're going to take a close look at 7 critical habits. Habits that, when broken, will open the door to a more fulfilling and powerful life. Now, as we explore these habits, keep in mind that it's not about judgment. It's about transformation. It's about realizing that the choices we make each day are the building blocks of our destiny, and it's about taking full responsibility for those choices. So let's dive in and begin with the first one, a habit that many of us may not even realize is holding us back. The first habit that needs to go is hypocrisy. We've all been guilty of it at some point, saying one thing and doing another. This is when we claim certain beliefs or values, yet our actions don't match those claims. Hypocrisy is like a shadow that follows us, eating away at our credibility and self-respect. We can hide it from the world, but we can never hide it from ourselves. Deep down, we know when we are being inauthentic. And while it may feel convenient to wear a mask, the truth is that it leaves us disconnected from our true selves and others. People are intuitive. They can feel the energy of someone who isn't living in alignment with their values. And in the long run, this disconnect creates distance in our relationships, undermines our influence, and leaves us feeling isolated. But when we stop living in contradiction, when we choose to live authentically, a powerful transformation begins. Integrity is the bedrock of every meaningful relationship, whether with ourselves or others. When you can stand firm in who you are, without pretense or facade, your inner confidence grows. You stop chasing approval, and you start living with purpose. That's the kind of life worth living, one where your actions reflect your beliefs. Next, let's talk about judgmental attitudes. How often do we look at someone else's choices and feel the urge to criticize or label them? It's a natural instinct, yet it's one that can be incredibly damaging. When we judge others, we create barriers both to understanding and to connection. We fail to see them as whole people, complex and evolving. Instead, we reduce them to their mistakes or their flaws. But judgment doesn't just harm others, it harms us too. It clouds our ability to be compassionate, to understand, and to support those who may be struggling. When we hold others to rigid standards of perfection, we often find ourselves trapped in a cycle of comparison and resentment. The truth is, we don't know the full story of anyone's life. We don't understand their struggles, their battles, or their pain. The act of judging shuts us off from empathy and growth. What if, instead of casting judgment, we chose to show understanding and compassion? What if we approached every person with the mindset of a learner, seeing their potential, recognizing their humanity, and offering grace? Imagine how much more connected we'd be, not just to others, but to ourselves. Let's challenge the habit of judgment and replace it with a heart of empathy. The world needs more of that. We need more of that. The third habit is a dangerous one, and it's tied to the world we live in, materialism. Everywhere we turn, we're bombarded by messages telling us that we need more stuff, more money, more success, more possessions. It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that our worth is determined by what we own or what we can show others. But the truth is that materialism steals from us. It robs us of our sense of purpose and fulfillment. It keeps us on a never-ending treadmill of striving for things that never bring lasting satisfaction. The more we focus on external validation, the more we lose touch with what truly matters. Fulfillment doesn't come from accumulating things. It comes from meaningful experiences, from relationships, from growth, and from inner peace. We must remember that possessions are temporary, but the richness of life lies in the intangible, the moments, the memories, the lessons we learn along the way. Break free from the chains of materialism, and you'll find that the weight you've been carrying is lifted. True happiness comes when we start valuing what truly matters, not what can be bought. Another habit that holds us back is the failure to reflect. We live in a fast-paced world where everything seems urgent. We're always on the go, always moving, always striving. But in our rush to get ahead, we often neglect to stop and reflect. We fail to ask ourselves the tough questions. Are we on the right path? Are we learning from our mistakes? Are we growing as individuals? Without self-reflection, we become stagnant. We miss opportunities to correct our course and to evolve. It's like driving a car without ever looking at the roadmap. You might be going somewhere, but you're not really sure if it's where you want to go. Taking the time to reflect allows us to grow, to reassess our goals, and to adjust our mindset. It's how we learn from our experiences rather than just letting them pass by. Self-reflection is the key to self-improvement. It is the moment where we look inward, learn, and begin to evolve. Next, let's tackle the habit of dishonesty. Dishonesty can take many forms: small lies, half-truths, or even withholding information. But no matter the form, dishonesty has one thing in common: it erodes trust. It undermines relationships and creates a sense of unease in every interaction. When we lie, we're not only misleading others, we're also lying to ourselves, creating a disconnect between who we want to be and who we actually are. The cost of dishonesty is high. It's not just about losing the trust of others. It's about losing your own integrity. The more we lie, the more we distance ourselves from the truth. But when we commit to living authentically, when we choose to be truthful, even when it's hard, the rewards are immeasurable. Truth builds strong, lasting connections. It allows us to live with a clear conscience and frees us from the weight of deceit. Finally, let's talk about the habit of lacking compassion. We live in a world that often rewards self-centeredness. It's easy to become caught up in our own struggles, our own needs, and our own desires. But when we lack compassion for others, we build walls instead of bridges. We fail to see the pain, the struggle, and the humanity in those around us. We become disconnected from the very essence of what it means to be human. Compassion is the antidote to division. It's the force that unites us, that brings understanding and healing. When we choose to show empathy, to listen without judgment, and to offer help without expectation, we create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding. Compassion doesn't just change the lives of others, it changes us. It opens our hearts and expands our capacity for love. Each of these habits, while seemingly small, can have a profound impact on our lives. But the good news is that they are all within our control. We have the power to change, to break free from the habits that hold us back, and to embrace a life of authenticity, understanding, and growth. So I ask you, are you ready to make that change? Are you ready to shed the habits that have been holding you back and start living a life that aligns with your true values? The choice is yours, and today is the day to begin. Embrace your power. Live authentically. Build relationships on trust, compassion, and empathy. Reflect, grow, and evolve. Don't let anything hold you back. It's time to step into the life you were always meant to live. Hypocrisy is one of the most insidious habits that many people carry without even realizing it. It's easy to fall into the trap of saying one thing and doing another, especially when society rewards us for projecting an image of virtue or goodness, while we secretly indulge in actions that contradict our words. This inconsistency, however, can slowly eat away at our sense of self-worth, erode trust in our relationships, and prevent us from truly living with purpose. At its core, hypocrisy is rooted in the inability or unwillingness to align our actions with our beliefs. We may hold certain values, whether it's kindness, honesty, or integrity, but if our actions don't reflect these beliefs, then we become disconnected from our true selves. This dissonance between what we claim to value and how we behave creates inner tension, which can eventually lead to a loss of personal integrity. We start to feel like imposters, living a life that doesn't fully reflect who we really are. The more we pretend to be something we're not, the more we contribute to a sense of internal conflict. The consequences of hypocrisy go beyond just feeling bad about ourselves. When we live out of alignment with our values, we also lose the trust and respect of others. People are not naive. They can sense when someone's actions don't match their words. Whether it's a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger, they pick up on the inconsistency in our behavior. This creates an invisible wall between us and others, because no one wants to connect with someone who is not genuine. Over time, this can result in isolation and alienation, as people pull away from us, either consciously or subconsciously, because they no longer feel like they can trust us. What makes hypocrisy particularly damaging is that it is often so subtle. It's easy to justify our actions by telling ourselves that we are only human or that we deserve certain indulgences. But these small justifications eventually build up, and we start to ignore the internal warnings that we're not being true to ourselves. Perhaps it's the occasional lie we tell to avoid confrontation, or the promise we make to be there for someone but fail to follow through on. We tell ourselves that it's not a big deal, but over time, these little compromises chip away at our integrity. Hypocrisy also creates a barrier between us and the people around us. When we pretend to be something we're not, we create a false version of ourselves. This false version may be liked, admired, or even respected by others, but it is ultimately hollow. It prevents real connection because, deep down, we know we're not being authentic. And when others begin to see through the mask, the disappointment can be significant. It's hard to recover from the moment when someone realizes you haven't been truthful with them, whether in your actions or your words. The true cost of hypocrisy lies in how it diminishes our personal power. When we're not being authentic, we give away our power to maintain a false image, and we constantly fear being found out. The energy we spend on keeping up appearances and pretending to be someone we're not could be better spent on actual personal growth and connection. It's exhausting to keep up with the persona we've created, and it takes away from the energy we need to focus on things that matter in life. Living authentically, on the other hand, brings peace of mind. When we align our actions with our values, we feel a sense of wholeness and completeness that no amount of external validation can provide. There is strength in being true to yourself, even when it's uncomfortable or difficult. When we live with authenticity, our words and actions are in harmony, and this alignment breeds confidence and trustworthiness. People are drawn to authenticity because it feels safe and reliable. They know that what you say is what you mean, and that trust is the foundation of any strong relationship, whether personal or professional. Being authentic also allows us to be more compassionate with others. When we stop pretending to be perfect and accept that we, too, have flaws, it opens up the possibility for genuine connection. We can be more forgiving of others' mistakes because we are aware of our own imperfections. We stop holding others to unrealistic standards and start creating relationships that are built on mutual respect and understanding. Ultimately, hypocrisy not only harms others but harms ourselves as well. The key to breaking free from it is to be brutally honest with ourselves. It requires taking a hard look at our behavior and asking whether we are truly living in alignment with our values. Are we acting in accordance with the principles we claim to hold dear, or are we simply paying lip service to them? It's about examining the inconsistencies in our lives and making the conscious decision to address them. Living authentically is not always easy, but it is always worth it. When we stop pretending to be something we're not, we free ourselves to live with purpose, to build meaningful relationships, and to find peace in knowing that we are exactly who we say we are. Judgmental attitudes are deeply ingrained in human nature, but they are also some of the most destructive habits we carry with us, often without realizing their impact. It's easy to look at others and make quick assessments based on their actions, appearance, or behavior. We all do it, sometimes in passing, sometimes unconsciously. And while it may seem harmless in the moment, the habit of judging others can deeply affect both our relationships with others and our inner peace. When we constantly judge people, we fail to see the full spectrum of their humanity. We only focus on their flaws, their mistakes, or their differences, without recognizing the struggles and complexities that shape who they are. At the heart of judgment lies a belief that we are somehow better, more deserving, or more righteous than others. It's a way of elevating ourselves while simultaneously diminishing the worth of someone else. We look at others' behavior through a critical lens, often without understanding their circumstances or the reasons behind their actions. This habit can create a false sense of superiority, where we set ourselves up as the judge and others as the ones to be evaluated. The truth is, when we engage in judgment, we miss the opportunity to connect, to learn, and to empathize with others. By focusing only on their flaws or missteps, we ignore the things that make them unique, their struggles, their strengths, and the lessons they have learned along the way. The negative effects of a judgmental attitude are far-reaching. On a personal level, judgment isolates us from others. People can sense when they are being judged, even if it's not done explicitly. Subtle gestures, the tone of voice, or the way we speak about someone behind their back can all communicate that we view them as less than. This fosters a toxic environment where relationships are built on the foundation of criticism rather than understanding and trust. When we judge others, we also close ourselves off from meaningful connection. Instead of taking the time to understand a person's story, we dismiss them based on one moment or one aspect of their life. We fail to recognize that everyone has their own path, filled with challenges that may not be immediately visible to us. Furthermore, a judgmental attitude can create an atmosphere of fear and insecurity not only for others but for ourselves. When we constantly judge those around us, we live in a world where we feel that others are also judging us in return. This creates an environment of anxiety where we are perpetually concerned about how others perceive us. We become trapped in a cycle of judgment, where we are constantly scrutinizing the behavior of others while also worrying about our own. This insecurity chips away at our sense of self-worth and keeps us from being present in the moment. Instead of focusing on the things that really matter, like growth, connection, and kindness, we become fixated on comparison and criticism. Moreover, judgment distorts our perception of the world. It filters everything through a narrow, critical lens. Instead of seeing people as they are, multidimensional and full of experiences, we reduce them to a set of labels or categories. We may say someone is lazy without considering the reasons behind their behavior. We might call someone rude without understanding the circumstances that led them to act that way. Judgment blinds us to the reality of others' lives and the complexity of their emotions. It keeps us from seeing their potential, their struggles, or the deep layers of their humanity. In doing so, we limit our capacity for empathy, and our relationships suffer as a result. A judgmental mindset also has the potential to block our own personal growth. It shifts our focus away from our own journey and toward the shortcomings of others. Instead of reflecting on our own behavior and seeking self-improvement, we spend our energy on critiquing others. This prevents us from cultivating the kind of humility that allows us to learn from our mistakes and grow. It encourages an unhealthy comparison game where we're constantly measuring ourselves against others rather than focusing on our own path to growth. By spending so much time looking at others, we lose sight of the progress we could be making within ourselves. One of the most powerful things we can do to combat judgment is to embrace empathy. Empathy allows us to connect with others on a deeper level and recognize that everyone is fighting their own battles, even if those battles aren't visible to us. When we replace judgment with curiosity and compassion, we begin to see people not as problems to be fixed, but as individuals with unique stories and challenges. Instead of immediately jumping to conclusions or labeling someone based on a single action, we can try to understand their perspective, their pain, and their experiences. This shift in mindset not only helps to build more authentic and supportive relationships, but also enriches our own lives as we learn to be less critical and more open-minded. Additionally, reducing judgment requires us to look inward and examine our own beliefs and biases. Often our judgments are rooted in preconceived notions, stereotypes, or past experiences that may not accurately reflect the truth of a situation or a person. We must take the time to reflect on why we judge and whether those judgments are based on facts or assumptions. In doing so, we can work to free ourselves from the limiting beliefs that keep us from seeing others as they truly are. By focusing on understanding rather than judging, we can cultivate a more positive and inclusive outlook on life, one that allows for growth, connection, and deeper relationships. In the end, letting go of judgment is not about turning a blind eye to the flaws of others or ignoring wrongdoings. It's about recognizing that we all have our struggles, and our first response should be one of understanding and empathy, not criticism. It's about seeing others for who they truly are and acknowledging that their journey, just like ours, is filled with complexities that we may not fully comprehend. When we stop judging, we create space for kindness, understanding, and personal growth, both for ourselves and for the people around us. Materialism has a subtle yet powerful grip on many people's lives, often shaping their priorities, actions, and self-worth. It's easy to become fixated on the pursuit of possessions, wealth, and status when society constantly reinforces the idea that success and happiness are tied to material things. We're bombarded with advertisements, social media influencers, and celebrity culture that project an image of a perfect life built on wealth, luxury, and the accumulation of goods. The underlying message is clear: more is better and happiness can be purchased. However, this belief in materialism can distort our sense of fulfillment and leave us feeling empty, no matter how much we acquire. When we place too much importance on material possessions, we begin to base our self-worth on what we own or how much money we make. The more we get, the more we feel we need, creating an insatiable cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. It's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others based on what we have. We see someone with a bigger house, a more expensive car, or the latest gadgets, and we feel a pang of inadequacy, thinking that somehow we are less than they are. This constant comparison steals our peace of mind and makes us forget that true happiness doesn't come from the things we possess. Instead, it comes from the quality of our relationships, the work we do, and the sense of purpose we feel in our lives. Moreover, materialism often distracts us from what truly matters. The pursuit of wealth and possessions can take up so much of our time, energy, and focus that we lose sight of the more meaningful aspects of life. We work longer hours, take on extra projects, or sacrifice personal time in the name of getting ahead financially, only to find that the rewards of these efforts do not bring lasting satisfaction. When we tie our happiness to external possessions, we forget to nurture our inner lives, our emotional well-being, personal growth, and connections with others. The constant drive to accumulate more can make us lose touch with what brings us true contentment, which is often rooted in things that money cannot buy. The obsession with material wealth also affects the way we interact with others. If we measure our worth based on possessions, we might begin to value people according to what they can offer us materially. We may prioritize friendships and relationships that give us social status or wealth, rather than those that are rooted in shared values, kindness, and mutual respect. This creates a shallow dynamic where appearances and material gain become the focal point, rather than genuine connection and personal growth. People who are caught up in materialism may find it difficult to form deep, meaningful relationships because they are too focused on surface-level concerns. True connection comes from authenticity, not from what someone can provide in terms of material wealth. Materialism can also lead to a sense of emptiness, despite the accumulation of wealth. When we chase after the next best thing, a newer phone, a designer outfit, a bigger house, we may experience a temporary thrill, but it doesn't last. The novelty fades, and the void we hope to fill remains. The pursuit of material things doesn't address the deeper needs of our soul, needs for purpose, connection, and fulfillment. As we chase more and more, we often neglect the inner work that brings us lasting peace and happiness. It's an empty cycle that in the long run leaves us feeling more disconnected and dissatisfied than before. In addition to the emotional toll, materialism can have negative effects on our well-being. The constant stress of maintaining a certain lifestyle, keeping up with societal expectations, and striving for ever greater possessions can contribute to anxiety and burnout. We become consumed with the fear of not having enough or not measuring up, which undermines our mental health and peace of mind. The pressure to always want more can make us forget the simple joys of life and the satisfaction that comes from enjoying what we already have. Instead of being grateful for the present moment, we're constantly looking ahead to the next acquisition, the next upgrade, the next milestone. This focus on future goals rather than present gratitude can rob us of the joy and contentment that should come with each day. True fulfillment doesn't come from amassing wealth or possessions, but from the internal satisfaction that comes with living a life aligned with one's values and purpose. When we prioritize relationships, personal growth, and making a positive impact, we find that happiness is not something we can buy, it's something we cultivate. It's about choosing to live in a way that is rooted in simplicity, mindfulness, and gratitude. When we let go of the idea that material possessions define us, we open ourselves up to a life of greater depth and meaning. In a world where materialism is often glorified, it can be difficult to shift our perspective. We may feel pressure to keep up with the trends or to pursue the same material goals as those around us. However, taking a step back and reflecting on what truly brings us joy can help us break free from this cycle. The more we focus on building relationships, pursuing passions, and fostering personal growth, the less we find ourselves dependent on material things for our happiness. Instead of looking outward for validation, we start looking inward, discovering that the most fulfilling aspects of life are those that cannot be bought. By letting go of materialism and focusing on what truly matters, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of comparison and consumption, and we open ourselves up to a more meaningful and fulfilling existence. As we reflect on the habits that can hinder our growth, it becomes clear that shifting our mindset and behaviors is essential for living a more fulfilling and purposeful life. Whether it's hypocrisy, judgmental attitudes, materialism, or other harmful patterns, breaking free from these tendencies is crucial for creating authentic connections, personal peace, and long-lasting success. We must learn to align our actions with our beliefs, embrace empathy and understanding, and detach our sense of worth from external possessions or fleeting desires. The path to self-improvement may not always be easy, but with intention, self-awareness, and a commitment to growth, we can overcome these habits and build a life that reflects who we truly are. Good luck on your journey as you work to stop these detrimental habits. Remember, change begins with self-awareness and the courage to make the first step. Trust in your ability to transform your life, and know that every positive change you make will ripple out into the world around you. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on these insights, and I wish you all the best as you continue to grow and thrive.